All right, everyone, we start off today talking about Sarah Palin, who, years ago nobody expected she would be particularly relevant in U.S. politics again, but she has easily placed first in I believe it was 46-person race in Alaska. They have a new system there. There's a special primary for an open seat, and again, there are a huge number of people running, quite a few of which had at least some sort of political pulse, in the multiple thousands of votes range. I think there were about a dozen people over that threshold. And the idea is that as many people can run in their primary as possible. Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't really matter. They've got an open primary system where they've abolished the concept of having both parties do their own primary, and it's just basically a free-for-all. And then the top four people within that primary, they go on to the main actual election, and people choose between them. It's ranked choice voting, so the outcome will be one of those people is chosen. This system actually seems to be more fair and is more of a good idea, I think, certainly than the current system that's used in most states. By having just an open primary system like that with ranked choice, it definitely can help independent and third-party candidates definitely get a lot more votes, number one, potentially put them over 50%, number two. She easily placed first, way out ahead. Nobody else even came close. There were a couple of other people that had over 10,000 votes. She was pushing 30, or was it 40? So she's probably going to end up becoming the new representative from Alaska. This is quite a career trajectory. Of course, she had been governor, then she was McCain's running mate, and then she effectively dropped out of politics for quite some time, and now she's seeking a legislative position. Now, the first thing that we can say is that if she had presidential ambitions, and she would be unwise to do that, I don't think that would work. She wouldn't be seeking a House seat, she'd wait for a Senate slot. House members almost never end up becoming the nominee, and only a couple of times in U.S. history have they actually become the president fresh off of the House. So this speaks to her wanting a legislative slot and keeping that probably for the foreseeable future, as opposed to running for the higher office later on. Secondly, would I support Sarah Palin? It's a really difficult question to be asked. I am not a Palin fan. I'm not a fan of the moose meat sort of reality TV side of things. And as McCain's running mate, having taken that position, and she was clearly chosen because she's female. That's the only qualification McCain cared about. Female and younger, I suppose. There's a little bit of Republican Party id poll of yesteryear from the 2000s. I like that she effectively threw McCain under the bus and went rogue, and this was spoken of a lot at the time. In fact, she probably helped to defeat him almost as much as Obama's own verbal acumen did. So I like that, because McCain is an enemy, a traitor to the United States. It's good that he's gone. I don't care. Some people say, well, it's unkind to say about poor McCain. Fuck McCain and his entire family. Same with the Cheneys, the Bushes, and all these neocon turds. So on the one hand, I like that. And of course, in this system, there are a bunch of Democrats. One of them will be in the running. I think there's an independent candidate that will also be in that top four. There is another Republican to deal with, but with the ranked choice system, I have a feeling that she probably ends up winning. If you're that far out ahead in a massively packed field where you've got a dozen other Republicans anyway to contend with, several of which have a political pulse, and you still get more votes than the next three of them combined, I think the writing's on the wall. So this is another seat that the Democrats will be harping about. Oh my God, Sarah Palin, she spoke kindly of Trump. Oh my God, she's Satan incarnate. It'll also be funny because her adjacency to John McCain makes it harder for the Democrats to attack her, actually. So their attack line is, she abandoned Alaska. Well, she was representing us as governor, then she decided to run and be John McCain's running mate. She basically absconded. She left the state. When that's the attack line, and you're seeing this from her fellow Republicans, by the way, not just like the Democrat candidates there, that's not necessarily the most effective. This is the kind of thing, by the way, when you have that many people running, and most of them are Republicans or independents, a few Democrats sprinkled around. This shows as well the feeding frenzy that is the current political climate, because the Democrats are hemorrhaging so much support that every Republican that ever thought of running for a higher office than they're already in wants to seek it. And then there are an awful lot of empty former Dem seats to be chomped up by the Republicans. Again, in my analysis, the Republicans shellac the Democrats even if they don't, even if they win a minority of the toss-up seats for the U.S. House, a minority of them. So most of the seats are spoken for. You've got about 100 seats that are competitive. Even if most of the core toss-up seats go to the Democrats, the Republicans still come out with a House majority twice the size of what the Democrats currently have, a reasonable majority. It'll probably be more than that. I think it'll tilt 2/3 in their favor, in the GOP's favor. Palin will be one of those people, I imagine, probably ends up winning. She's got name recognition. She had Trump's endorsement. And that's another important thing. If Trump had endorsed one of her Republican opponents, they probably would have come out ahead. Palin would still probably be in the top 4. She'd still have a political pulse and be able to go on to the general. Trump, I think, kind of likes the Palin style because of that reality TV-esque approach. You'll remember she had that short-lived series about her life, and it was very over the top. It's sort of like that show about catfishing, or, you know, the dudes that would go out into the yonder hills, into the swamps and shit in the Everglades and try to get catfish and stuff. Or any of those other similar shows. You know, all of the redneck shows of the 2010s or even late 2000s. You remember that with the redneck humor, redneck this, redneck Bigfoot hunters, redneck catfishing, Appalachian hillbilly show, and stuff like that. That's sort of Trump's forte. It's no surprise that he endorsed her. So, the pros for Palin: she's a yesteryear Republican who's at least not a complete neocon. Okay, that's good. It's missing link sort of Republican, sort of like a Cawthorn, I suppose. Trump's endorsement, which in someone's case like me, it does tilt me in the direction of thinking more positively towards them. Dr. Oz and a few others accepted, of course. That's good. Seems more coherent now, actually. If you hear her speak, she's a little bit less bombastic and off the wall than she was as would-be VP Sarah Palin. The downside, of course, is, again, adjacency to John McCain, even if she helped to screw him, ultimately, in the end. And even if we don't promote any malevolence on her part doing that, like, hey, John is fucking up, I'm going to go rogue and screw him, I just want, a book deal or something. I think that's hilarious, but the fact that you were even his running mate does make me look askance to any possible endorsement of someone like Sarah Palin. And I do get rankled by the moose meat, hillbilly mom sort of thing. You can't see Russia from your backyard, yada, 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 yada. Ultimately, therefore, it's going to be an interesting race. I expect that she will win in the end in a 4-person race when she already was clocking in near 30%, and more than 20% of the remnant goes to another Republican. You've got low turnout for the Dems. The one Democrat that's there, it's Alaska. It's a GOP-held state generally. And then you've got the independent candidate. In ranked choice, a lot of people will do the lesser of two evil things on their first vote, Republican or Democrat, and the independent will come in second or third. Well, if you get enough votes on the, or potentially they put Palin or her opponent second or third, that probably gets her over the threshold. So I think she'll win. Trump's endorsement helped to put her significantly over all of her opponents. Again, the next 3 Republicans in the ranking combined didn't have anywhere near her votes. Congrats to Sarah Palin on your political comeback. It's going to be very, very interesting this election season. That's about all. Peace out.